I never imagined my life would lead me here, to this moment, sitting alone in my bedroom, heart racing, hands trembling, ready to confess something that will forever change the way people see me. I'm not proud of what I've done. I've replayed the events 1,000 times in my head, trying to find a point where I could have stopped it, where I could have chosen differently. But the truth is, I didn't stop. And that's why I'm here, telling you my story. I married Mark when I was 43. He was charming, stable, the kind of man who made me feel safe. He'd been divorced for years, and he had a son from his first marriage, Steve, who was 21 at the time. Steve didn't live with us. He was in college, busy with his own life. I met him briefly before the wedding, tall, broad-shouldered, with that kind of boyish smile that could melt anyone's guard. I noticed it, but I didn't think much of it then. He was just my soon-to-be stepson. For the first year of marriage, life was ordinary. Mark worked long hours. I ran my small online business from home. Steve only came around during holidays or the occasional weekend visit. But last summer, that changed. Steve called one night and told us his apartment lease had ended. He wanted to save money before finding a new place, so Mark suggested he stay with us for a few months. I agreed, without hesitation. I wish I could say I didn't feel anything when he arrived that first day, but the truth is, I noticed him. He'd grown into himself, confident, more mature, but still with that playful grin. I brushed it off as harmless. After all, I was his stepmother. Nothing more. But then, Mark's work schedule got even worse. He was away on business trips for days at a time. Steve and I ended up spending more time together, eating dinner, watching TV, talking late into the night. He had a way of making me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. He asked about my day, noticed when I changed my hair, remembered the small things I mentioned. It was flattering and dangerous. The night everything started was nothing extraordinary, at least, it didn't seem that way. Mark was out of town again. I'd made pasta for dinner, and Steve had opened a bottle of wine. We sat on the couch afterward, still talking long after the plates were cleared. I remember laughing at something he said, touching his arm without thinking. He looked at me then, not like a stepson, but like a man who wanted me. And I didn't look away. We didn't kiss that night. But something unspoken passed between us, and it was enough to shift everything. Over the next few days, the tension built. A brush of his hand when we passed in the hallway, the way his gaze lingered a second too long. I told myself I was imagining it, but deep down I knew I wasn't. It happened one rainy afternoon. Mark was gone, and I was curled up on the couch with a book. Steve came in, hair damp from the shower, wearing just sweatpants. He sat beside me, so close our knees touched. We talked, about nothing, about everything. And then there was silence. I don't know who leaned in first. Maybe it was both of us. But suddenly, his lips were on mine, warm and insistent, and I didn't pull away. The kiss turned into more. I should have stopped it. I should have said no. But I didn't. In that moment, it felt like something I had been craving for years, a connection, a spark, a feeling that I was wanted. And once that line was crossed, there was no going back. What followed were weeks of stolen moments. We were careful, too careful. Never when Mark was home. Always making sure doors were locked, footsteps were unheard. It was reckless and thrilling, but also suffocating. Every time I was with Steve, I felt alive. Every time I looked at Mark, I felt sick with guilt. It couldn't last. Affairs never do. One evening, Mark came home earlier than expected from a trip. Steve and I were in the kitchen, standing too close, whispering. The look on Mark's face when he walked in told me everything he knew. He didn't say a word right away, just stared at us with a mix of disbelief and rage. I tried to speak, to explain, but what could I possibly say? There's no excuse for betraying your husband with his own son. The fallout was ugly. Mark yelled, words I'll never forget, words I deserved. Steve tried to take the blame, but it was both of us. Mark told him to leave immediately, and he did. That was the last time I saw Steve. Mark didn't leave me right away. We tried counseling. We tried silence. But the trust was gone. Eventually, he filed for divorce. I moved out, taking only what I needed. I never spoke to Steve again. People will judge me for this, and they should. I crossed a line that should never be crossed. But I also know that behind every mistake, there's a story, one of loneliness, unmet needs, and choices that spiral out of control. I'm not telling you this to gain sympathy. I'm telling you because sometimes the worst things we do come from the most human parts of us, the desire to feel alive, to be wanted, to be seen. And this was mine.